So we are also recording this session just for the information of all. And before we begin, I really request everybody to keep themselves on mute mode as well as video off to avoid any kind of distraction. And you will get the time where you could keep your video or maybe the audio on if at all you want to ask something whenever our speaker, intends to put some question or something like that. Okay. So with this process in mind, uh, yeah. So a very happy morning to all of you. Uh, Today is a very bright and a nice day. I really hope that this COVID really goes off and such kind of sessions we really, if we could conduct it offline. But anyways, we could use this digital platform in the best possible way. That's what we are doing. So my warm welcome to all the directors of the school, our own director, Dr. Archana, my all colleagues, as well as the dear students. And the heartiest thanks in the beginning only to our speaker, Mr. Sandeep Kocher, for accepting this invitation and taking out some time for your busy schedule, as I know how busy you are. So thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you. So today the topic is entrepreneurship skills. Whenever this word entrepreneur comes in the mind, I really think that who does not want to be entrepreneur? I guess each one of us has got this very aggressive or sometimes a little soft approach. Somewhere down the line, it is in our mind that one day I want to do something on my own. But the other part of the story is how many actually could, go to that path and could really fulfill their dreams on this. A lot of times, out of 100, I guess 70 to 80%, they don't turn out to be entrepreneur. Why this would be? Maybe because of some hesitation, maybe lack of courage, maybe something goes wrong, or maybe some kind of limitations in financial attributes, lacking in some right kind of a knowledge, lack of a proper guidance, or maybe some mentorship. So since ours is a symbiosis skills and professional university, where in every department and we all as a teacher, we always keep on encouraging our students that skills are something which are very, very important. Be skilled, if you know theory a little less, still it is okay. But you should be totally skilled in whatever you do. Because skill, I guess, is a journey which really takes you to the path of being an entrepreneur. Not only that, but perhaps a very successful entrepreneur. So, with this kind of thought in mind, we, the School of Beauty and Wellness, once again welcome our guest, Mr. Sandeep Kocher. He is the founder as well as director of Blue Minds Consulting. I would like to also introduce our guest. Mr. Sandeep Kocher is an MBA from IIM Bangalore, an electronics and telecommunication engineer with more than 18 years of corporate consulting experience. He is an insightful, innovative, powerful, inspirational speaker and storyteller. He loves using storytelling as an instrument to change and transform. He has a vast 30 plus years of experience in poetry, storytelling, and creative writing. His authentic and very real Wabi Sabi storytelling leadership series has helped people make sure that big switch in their lives and radically improve their way of thinking. He has 170 views, 170 million plus views on the stories he shares on LinkedIn, and he has over 470,000 followers who trust him. He is the founder CEO of www.blueminds.com, an electric leadership consulting practice that operates across geographies in the space of unconventional learning in different areas of people consulting, coaching, and leadership. He's certified leadership coach and has been a coach to Forbes 30 under 30 e-commerce entrepreneur, top leadership CXOs of various industries or organizations, as well as LGBTQ++ community members. He has also authored academic papers on applying supply chain management principles to recruitment processes and demand supply forecasting of human resources. He has successfully run several projects and programs ranging from small projects to large multi-million dollar projects in his professional career following the PMP methodology at IBM, Honeywell, and HCL Technologies. So many more. It really gives a privilege to introduce you, sir. So we welcome you over here. So now over to you.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Sue, and thanks for such a. It's too long an introduction, but I'll just maybe jump back to 30 years back when I really started off this journey, and I'll just share my screen as well so that we
Yeah,
can just, if you can just enable make me a co-host or enable.
yeah, I did that. Can you try once again now?
Yeah, it's working.
Okay.
So I'll just share a little bit of my journey and really also walk you through how it really happened and how I really, I think it was never planned that I would become an entrepreneur, and I'll walk you through my journey. So 30 years back, really, I used to love writing and I used to write poetry. And I used to, somewhere dream that one day I'll become a writer. But really, I did not have the faith and confidence in myself that I could do it. There was also this whole thing about whether I can make a career out of it, and I also had to pursue you know a career to be able to support my family and all of those things. So um, I used to write, typically I used to just write in my own diary, and that's what I did. Then my grandfather wanted me to become an engineer, and that's how I ended up becoming an engineer. And I was a creative person, and just imagine a creative person trying to pursue something that he or she does not like. It's wonderful to see that you're all pursuing very alternate kind of careers, which is very good. Um, while I was doing my engineering, I did not do really well in it. I in fact failed in many years because I just couldn't, my mind couldn't orient it towards that. Somehow I managed to complete my engineering, worked with startups and all, and slowly then I started to understand that I like business. And I slowly started to move toward the business side of things. I wasn't a good programmer and I just did not like it also. So it's very important that you pursue something that you like to do. And the second is something that you're good at. And the third is that there should be a demand of what you're doing in the market. So that is where the journey began. After working for a few years, I did my MBA, and then after that, the career took off. But really, I never enjoyed what I was doing. So almost next 15 years, I used to be a hobby writer. I used to continue writing, but really never pursued it as a profession. Now, when passion and profession meet, it's a beautiful intersection. Because that's something that I enjoy doing. Right? So after working for 15 odd years, I really got frustrated, and I mean, I was always a very fearful person. I always had confidence issues, and I used to always feel that people will laugh at me and I'll fail. And, all of those things actually happened in my life. It was not them or it was not something else. It was really me that was making these things happen. After working for 15 years, 16 odd years, and then I thought I'll quit. I didn't have a plan in mind what I'll do. So I just quit. I got some assignment and I said, okay, let's just jump into it and try something different. I was a technology guy, so last role was a CTO. So I didn't know anything else other than technology. So I remember I started to volunteer with startups so that I learn new skills because my skills were very, very focused. I realized I required two skills, which was very important at that point of time, 5 years back. One was digital marketing, and the second was entrepreneurship. Why digital marketing? Because I think that was the one way that I could reach out to customers, clients, or approach new companies, organizations, help them, and also maybe build my own brand and how to do marketing for myself. And the second was entrepreneurship, because I felt that entrepreneurship is something that I need if I want to build a business. Now, as a kid, I always wanted, also had that one day maybe I'll do something of my own, but really I never had that confidence, because that I wasn't clear what I wanted to do. There are a couple of other things that I did have a role model during my childhood. Uh, there was an uncle in my family, and he used to be a consultant, and I used to really like the fact that he used to travel the world, and people would pay to make him travel, and he used to do that kind of work. So I thought maybe consulting is something one day I'll do. So these were the thoughts, these three very different things. It was about consulting, it was about writing, and it was about doing something of my own. But I didn't know how to connect the dots. I was also very much bothered by society and what society will say and think, and my early years of career were very tough, and I did not do very well. In fact, um, I think I bought my two-wheeler at the age of 26. So you can imagine how my first two-wheeler. So you can imagine how late I was in my life, and my managers and others were much less experienced than me. So when I started off my journey as an entrepreneur 5 years back, I started with volunteering with startups, because I thought that maybe that's the only way I learn new things. So some of the startups, they wanted techies, and I started doing that, and I started to learn how businesses are being built. I got an opportunity to become a co-founder in one, and started doing that. On the side, I realized I had to build my skills of digital marketing and entrepreneurship. So I didn't know any other way to do it. So I decided to become a professor. Very stupid, I know. So I actually became a professor, and I was teaching at two business schools, and I started to teach digital marketing. And so basically, my idea was very simple, that if I have to teach it, I have to learn it. So I started to learn those skills. And in that, one of the institutions, they wanted to build an incubator. So I actually built a startup incubator, and I would interact with different kinds of startups. So that started to improve my knowledge of different kinds of businesses that are there. I would every day be speaking to around 5 to 10 different startups. And that started to make me understand what is happening outside. Now, for business, the most important is you have to be in touch with the market reality. If you're not in touch with the market or the customers, then you don't know business really well. You can think of ideas in your head, but it will never translate into reality. So that is how I went forward. In the meantime, I got a couple of opportunities. One startup offered me to become a co-founder, and I joined. After a couple of months, I realized the business was not good, so I left it. A microfinance startup said, wanted me to invest, and I invested my savings into a microfinance startup. They were lending to poor people in Mumbai, in the slums. Um, and as that happened, after a few months, I realized that didn't work out very well, and I lost all my money. Um, in the meantime, I did invest in a beauty business also. So it's interesting that you're all from that area. I tried to get a salon, a large salon, but I couldn't find the right, and this was with partnership with someone else, but that person turned out not the right person. I again lost money, because he had asked me to put money in for his partnership business. And frankly, I never knew all these things that time, that, I mean, I was doing the wrong thing. So I just did it on trust, and basically it didn't work out. So that's how, and I did multiple such many mistakes. Um, so that time was a little tough, because, I was not earning anything and money was going away. So my fear started to come back, and I also started to feel that, okay, maybe I'll fail again. Now, I think after student life, early career was very tough. Financial issues were there, and therefore the struggle was always there to earn money. And somewhere I was very obsessed with money, and there was also this greed and fear that was at me. So fear of losing what I have and greed of getting what I don't have. So as the journey progressed, I realized that I have to change inside if I want the outside to change. Because even in business or anything that you want to create, see, there is a consumer mindset and there's a creator mindset. A consumer is somebody who consumes things, content on the mobile, movies, clothes, materialism, all of that. A creator or an entrepreneur is somebody who creates things. Now, these two mindsets are radically different. You have to also pursue a path which is not, I would say, which is a path where you don't have too many requirements in your life. Now, as we become more consumers of things, we start to enjoy materialism. Entrepreneurship is also a spiritual journey because you're tested every single day. Your fear is tested, your greed is tested, and over time your character gets built. And sadly, we don't teach character building in schools. Now, I used to also have these two voices in my head. One voice would talk about good things, and another voice would talk about bad things that would happen. And the strange part was I used to always listen to the bad things. I used to be critical. I used to find faults with people. Basically, I was a very negative person. And since I was negative, therefore, I was attracting negativity in my life. And therefore, the journey continued. My failures started to go more and more. I then started off another business, which was in garments, apparels, with a few of my school friends, childhood friends. We found a client in Middle East, and we started to source t-shirts from South India and supply them. But the money was not enough because there were three partners. One was a sleeping partner, and the other two were us and one more friend of mine. So then we thought, okay, we need to expand because one of the partners said, look, I got this client, and therefore, I think it's not enough money for three of us, so we should find some other business. So then I tried one on shoes. We got an order, 1,000 pairs order through one of my partners from Europe, and we started to kind of find vendors. My job was to find vendors. And I went to Agra, I went to Kanpur, I went to south of India, Chennai, Ranipet, Ambur, and Delhi and different places. And I started to shortlist Kolkata, started to shortlist vendors. We found five vendors, and this was a sample order for 1,000 pairs. I think it was 1,000, a little bit more maybe. And the deal was that if we got it right, then we'll get 100,000 pairs. Now that's a large order, 100,000 pairs. But the price point was very, 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 very tough. Uh, we were doing a boot for €8, so you can imagine how competitive it was. We shortlisted five vendors. My job was to find suppliers and vendors for five factories. I visited maybe around 100 factories, shortlisted five out of those 100, and one of them we kind of went ahead with, and they started working on the pilot order. All this activity took almost 6 months. Now, in the 6 months, no money is coming, and we're just trying to kind of build stuff. Eventually, when the order started to come up, suddenly the vendor stopped responding. So I didn't know what has happened. So I actually flew down and went and met with the vendor. He started to avoid me. Eventually, he met up with me. He said, sorry, we can't do it at this price point. So I said, you've wasted 9 months of ours, and now you're saying that we can't do it. So, anyways, he backed out, and the customer also backed out because he said, if you can't do a pilot order, how can you run a large order? So that is how this business, and then eventually we decided to close this business, and my I lost my friendship with my childhood friends as well because money can spoil everything. So this is the point at which we reached here, and I realized I'd made a few mistakes. One is that I didn't know how to choose my co-founders well. Because if you don't have the right co-founder, it's very tough to build a business if you don't have those skills, unless you are so motivated. And I think somewhere I also lacked that inner motivation. I would give up, you know. So I had a very weak character, and I would just flip very easily. I'd also gone through three bouts of depression through the last 15 odd years, and that didn't help the cause. So, clinical depression, I'd gone through medications as well. I had that tendency to go back into the dark room and not want to open the curtains in my room. Um, it was more depression is a disease rather than anything else. You don't know, when you're stuck in that quicksand. I started to get back to the depressive state because till now what I'd done is, and this was almost a year and a half. I tried many things, many startups. Nothing seemed to be working. Um, that's when I set up Blue Minds. I thought of, okay, what's the business I can start with? And one of the things that I had done a lot was hiring. So I started off with a recruitment business. And this I was doing for the last year or so, off and on, but that started to work out. Um, and then I set up this firm, Blue Minds, and then an interesting thing that happened was that in the meantime, my wife, who was also working, um, she saw me doing stuff and enjoying myself, so she thought it's great fun. So she also quit her job. So here we were, two people jobless, and no income and money going out. So she joined me. She started off on her own first, and then somehow we realized that we need to work together. So she had a HR background, I had a tech background. There was synergy because there was a lot of intersection. She's a people person, and so she could run the people part, and I was not very good with people. So complementary skills are very important when you're looking for co-founders. If you have complementary skills, things will work out. Um, so we started off. I remember sitting out of Starbucks, and we thought, okay, let's work in the consulting space. We'll help clients solve their problems. And HR and technology were two areas we both were from, so we thought we'd start with that. I remember we used to sit in a Starbucks. She used to sit in one Starbucks, and I used to sit in another Starbucks. And we'd roughly do 10 conversations a day. Almost after 400 meetings, we got our first client. This period took around 3 4 months, and that's where the journey started. So also we realized that it's a lot of hard work to get clients, and that's I started thinking, is there an easier way out? Because that was a lot of hard work. But anyways, we got our first client, we executed it well, and then we started to get more and more clients slowly. Progress was slow, and we had reached 1 year of the company's existence. Things were going not very fast, slow. And frankly, I was also thinking that maybe I was regretting. These regrets are another thing that come in. That maybe I made the wrong decision, and now I have I mean, I've got my wife also into it, and we had a small child, and we had a lot of liabilities. I come from a very middle class background. My father had also lost his job almost while I was studying. Only he lost his job, so it was very tough. We never had a home for ourselves, so life was extremely tough. So I think that's where we kind of I was at, and I started to also look back on my failures. So it's been almost two years or so that I had been running and trying to do different things. Hustling is also a trap sometimes, that you start to try different things but really doesn't work. So that's really how we started. I'm going to skip here. So one day I was just sitting in my drawing room, and I was quite frustrated really about what had happened in the last few years. And I'd had a good career, everything had gone good. And last 2 years I had made no progress. I then also started to question, what am I doing and why am I doing? I mean, eventually I left the corporate because I didn't want to get into that racket. But here I was again doing the same thing. I wasn't doing anything that I was loving to do. So I just thought, I was sitting in my drawing room one day and I thought, okay, what is it that I like to do? And I remember the only thing I remembered from my entire life was writing. So I just had a phone in my hand and I started writing on Facebook. It didn't do well. And then I thought, okay, let me try LinkedIn. I tried LinkedIn. Now this was 2017, and that was a time when LinkedIn, storytelling was really catching up. I had no clue what was storytelling. I also did not know what to do on this platform, how to do it. I did not know anything. And that's how I really started to kind of write. And I started with maybe a couple of hours a day, and I started to enjoy the process because it was something I really liked to do. I was very average writer, and I think I'm still a very average writer. But really, as time went by, I started to enjoy it, and I started to put more hours. I started with maybe a couple of hours a day, and then I think in a few months I was putting in 10 to 15 hours a day. I think one point maybe even more than 15. Um, I was really enjoying it. I started to get into a zone where I was becoming more focused. All my distractions were going away, and that was an aha moment for me because most of the time I was so distracted I couldn't concentrate, and because of that I couldn't achieve much. So I think as I wrote more, I also stopped thinking about goals. My entire life was around goals, as to write my goals, and everything was based around what I have to achieve. For once I was doing something that I did not want to achieve anything. It was not, I was not so goals can be restricting, because goals means you're drawing a boundary. As a first step, goals are good, but after a point, if you want to do amazing things in your life, goals are just restricting. They will just draw a boundary that this you can't go beyond this. And as I wrote more, I think it was couple of months, 2 3 months down the line, I just counted once, okay, how are these what I'm writing doing? Because people had started commenting, my post went viral. I commented and I realized I was hitting 2 million views. That's when I realized, oh my god, this is big. um, then the other thing that happened was very interesting, that people started to write to me about their stories. I remember a lady wrote to me, and she was 40 years of age. She had a son, small son, and she wrote to me about her story, how her mother beats her up physically in front of her son. I was like really shocked. And then I started to also realize that I'm so lucky in my life. So that gratitude started to come in, and I started to move towards positivity. One girl also wrote to me. She was 17, 18 years of age, and she shared with me how she was being sexually abused by her brother. And when she went to her father, the father just scolded her and said, "It's not possible. What are you saying?" More and more people started to write their stories to me, and every day I would just become a medium. So slowly, I became a medium for people's stories. People started to kind of write and share with me, and they would tell me things that they won't even tell their own families. And what is the relationship I had with them? Maybe nothing, but maybe built on trust, because I was sharing everything openly in my life with them. My stories were around myself, and then slowly started to become stories around others. And slowly, I became a medium for people. I became a voice. And I think after the first year, the second year was very good. The second year, I counted, I think LinkedIn had this award system where it's a LinkedIn Top Voice award, and recognition, I would say, not even an award, but recognition for the best content creators or influencers. And when I counted and I compared with all these people who were writing on LinkedIn, I realized I think I was hitting 5 million views that time. So 60 million views a year I'd hit. And that was more than most people. In fact, I think that year I was crossing maybe the prime minister as well in terms of views. And I was like very sure that, okay, I should get it this time. And when the awards, when the top voices got announced, and there was an expectation from my end. And that was the lesson I learned, that expectation doesn't help. I didn't get it that year. And I was like very, frustrated and felt very bad about it. And that's when I learned my lesson, that you cannot live life with expectations. You have to just keep doing your stuff. That's it. It doesn't matter what results will come. You have to just put your actions, your efforts in that direction. And I continued writing. The next year was also pretty good. And I didn't bother when the LinkedIn Top Voices next time came around. And it was a surprise to see my name in that list. And I realized that when you don't go after anything, you get it, because the universe assumes that you already have it. The other thing I also realized was that giving is very powerful. If you give and help people, and I think in the last couple of years I never knew that a business could be built through this. So I was writing for the joy of my writing. Slowly, I started to get these interesting queries because I would leave my website at the bottom. I started getting interesting queries, and we started to get business through it. So organic leads started to come, and I realized I became a marketer. And basically, what I was doing was actually influencer viral marketing. And I didn't know all of this, and then somebody commented on my post and said, "You are a good storyteller." So that day I realized, okay, I've become a storyteller. So I changed my title and I called myself a storyteller. Lesson I learned there was that the market will tell you exactly what you're worth. The market will also tell you what you're offering, what's the demand, how is it being received. Just go by the market. So we started to build businesses around all the leads you would get. So market research was one area, marketing, influencer marketing, content marketing. So the whole digital content creation business was one business. We already had a hiring business we built on it. We had a consulting business. I'll share with you last year what happened during lockdown. It was March. By November of 2019, the market started to go down. The messages were clear, and we always will keep getting messages from the universe and people around us, which will tell us which direction we need to go. Sometimes it's intuition, sometimes coincidences. These are all messages. It's those messages which are on those WhatsApp groups we don't want to visit or are left unread. It's not the typical WhatsApp messages, but these are messages that the universe is trying to communicate to you why you're here and what you should be doing next. And but I didn't receive those messages. November to February, business started to go down. It was as if telling us very clearly something's going to happen. But as an entrepreneur, you've got to get that feel. You've got to understand the vibes. You've got to know before it happens. By March, once the lockdown was announced, business was impacted deeply. By this time, we had almost 100 odd clients, and and we had a large team, not very large but small team of around 15 odd people. And there were no revenues in March. Same thing happened in April. It was very tough. We had to put in all our savings and everything and see, okay, what should be done. That's when I realized that, okay, no, I think something radically different needs to be done now. So I think in April only I started to think about, okay, now this whole pandemic is going to lead to lot of job loss. What can we do? So we started to think about building a product. So we started to build a product for people who are losing their jobs, and how can we help them? That's one thing we started doing. Now we did not have money. Our backs were to the wall. There was no money, and obviously we had no money to pay salaries. So at this time, all the business schools, had very bad placements. A lot of good business schools. Internships are also not there. So we launched summer internships and internships for people who had lost their jobs. From and a lot of people from the different business schools, including IIMs, applied, and we got around 20, 30 people, and we started to build our product. Uh, Unpaid internships, they got learning, they were using their time, and we got their help to build the product. So that's how with zero cost we started to build the product. Within 2, 3 months, the product research was done, ideation was done. Now we had to build it. Now we didn't have a tech team and we couldn't afford it. So quickly identified a vendor who was going through a difficult time. He was in the travel business, and he started to build our. So we gave him a project to kind of build our stuff, and we pulled out savings from our own stuff and tried to kind of put in there. So that's how. Now the other thing was our business. Now our business was all physical. We were into trainings, we were into consulting. All of it was physical. So we slowly started to shift it towards virtual. Clients were very apprehensive. We started to convince clients, and as we did more and more webinars and all of that, we started to get training slowly. The other thing we realized is a market need for outplacement. How can you help people who are losing their jobs, and coaching. Now we had done coaching in our first year of operation. We were lucky to. I mean, I got coached by the coach who used to coach Steve Jobs. We did a collaboration with them, and but after that we left it because coaching market was a tough market. But then I thought that maybe the time's right now, and we started the whole coaching side of the story. We cracked some very large clients, and we started coaching thousands of people, both B2B as well as B2C. And that's how the coaching business got built. And the last year started off as the toughest year. We closed the year at doubling us ourselves, both in terms of people and revenues. So the learning lesson was that you have to quickly adapt and change. You have to move. Now, in business, the most important thing is micro niche. You need to have a micro niche. So, for example, we had a hiring business. Now, everybody does hiring. So, we thought, how should we differentiate? So, I one day I was interacting with somebody who pinged me, who said he's from people used to email me every day. Somebody sent me a message that I'm physically challenged. People are not hiring me because of this. And then someone sent me, I'm a trans person, no one's hiring me. And that's when I realized that maybe LGBTQ plus is a great place to start with for diversity hiring. So we discovered a micro niche diversity hiring. Similarly, in our own business consulting, we said, okay, how can we use storytelling to solve business problems? That was a micro niche. Hardly two, three firms are there in India which do the work that we do. So that is how we started to build the service business. Now, with the whole pandemic happening, we started to build a product, and we actually bootstrapped the product. It may go live in the next couple of months. It's come up really well. So yeah, that's been the journey so far. Now the good part is my co-founder is my wife also. It's tough sometimes because you have the personal bit involved, but she manages the human side of things and running the business. My job is to market, get clients, customers, and build the brand of the company. Till now, our company's brand was not very well built. So last year we started focusing on how can we build the company brand because it was piggybacking on my brand. So last year we got around 20,000 followers. The whole year we started to create content, and that really did well. So that's a bit about the journey so far. Maybe good time check. Um, oh, I think I've gone for 45 minutes now. So maybe I think I'll take a pause here if that's okay. And if there are any questions people have around.
Yes,
Um,
yes, sure, sure. As per you feel comfortable. Yes.
so if you have any question, maybe you could just unmute yourself, ask a question, and mute yourself back again. I think I would, and if you think that you are, and I've seen, if you're not feeling confident to ask or something, uh,
Uh, I can see one question.
perfect.
What kind of skill one should focus on during early 20s?
See, I think if you really ask me, the easiest and the best way to pick up new skills is to work with startups. Work with different kinds of startups in the area that you are interested in. Learn business. Learn how companies work. Learn why does somebody buy and why does somebody sell. What is the demand in the market and how does it all work. So start to kind of build business by working with startups. Business skills specifically, and I listed down two specific skills: digital marketing and entrepreneurship for myself. You need to identify what are the skills you want to gain for yourself, and then you pick them up. So entrepreneurship can be learned if you work with an early stage startup. And digital marketing, obviously you'll have to put in effort and start to do that, but that's what you can pick up and take forward.
How to, one more question is there. How to maintain a positive mindset while facing failure in business?
I think just be crazy and mad. Don't focus on the results at all. So one of the good things I did was I was just doing things as they came. I used to keep busy and I used to keep hustling. That was not a very good approach, but since I did not know, I would keep myself busy. So it was generally a 12 to 15-hour work day. In some cases, 18 hours a day I would work. I never had time to think what will happen. And some of the business I did were very stupid. I mean, I laugh at them, and when I think and look back, I remember my drawing room was full of these samples of shoes, and my wife was thinking and saying, "What are you doing?" so, I remember when I started to write. Also, uh, my son used to say, "What do you write? And why are you wasting your time?" And I remember a neighbor coming to me and asking, "What do you do? You keep sitting the whole day at home when I go to office." So I think people will keep saying what they keep saying. You got to just keep going. Now if things are not working out, you just keep doing stuff till you reach that point. Now there is no such set process of how to do it, but essentially I think keeping busy is one of the things. And more importantly, you should be enjoying what you're doing, because if you're doing anything for results, see, the universe, the way it does is very simple. Let's say, suppose, you must have seen a garbage area, right? In India, you have these places where people throw garbage on the roads, or you will have a place where all the garbage has been thrown. So everybody goes and throws more garbage there. So really, garbage attracts more garbage. Similarly, negativity will attract more negativity, and negativity is more powerful than positivity. So people, if you have to be positive, interact and stay with people who are very positive. Do things which are positive. Give to people freely. When you give, for example, what happens is, now I didn't understand this 3 years back when I was doing this, but you know, we've now impacted almost a few million lives now, and now we are starting to get back what we give. You know, that is when, at that time I didn't understand this whole thing. But when you give, it means that you are the person who's, who has so much. And people who have so much, the universe says, hey, this person has a lot and he's giving it all away. Let's give back to that person. And that's the whole, if you read the book The Secret, the abundance mindset and all of that, that's what it is. So the universe keeps receiving messages, and if you have a negative thought, it amplifies it. So the moment you think that I can't do it, it amplifies, and it says, in Hindi you say tathastu, which means whatever you ask for, you will exactly get that. And that is how you need to kind of have an abundance mindset. You have to think positively and you have to move forward. Negativity will always get you back. Now if you have negative thoughts, simple way that I use is write down all your negative thoughts. Whenever a thought comes into my head, I have a giant screen of my mind, and the thought comes in, I classify it as a positive or negative. Then I maintain social distance with all negative thoughts. So don't get involved in negative thoughts. They'll take you somewhere to a bad place where they'll say everything will go wrong, everything will go bad. So that's how I deal with all of this. And this has helped a lot in attracting positivity. I mean, so many things that have happened, so many miracles that have happened in my life have been primarily because of positivity and the fact that I've been giving as much as possible. I hope that answers. Sorry, long
Yeah, yeah,
answer.
yeah. So, one more question. As of what I can see, as of there are so many, but a lot of them you have already answered. So, what do you look for in an employee? Like when you hire for so what do you look for?
So the good part is my co-founder does all the hiring. So, I'm a little safe from this. But generally, for every job posting, we get roughly 1,000 job applications. So we
Oh,
follow a very interesting process where we first chat with the employee on email. We try to see how the person responds on email, and that's the first round of sifting we do. The second round of sifting we do is we try to understand the person's mindset and then set up a conversation. So out of 1,000 profiles, I think we may be chatting with 100 profiles, and out of 100, we end up speaking to maybe around 20 odd people. And then out of the 20 people, so we look for uh, attitude and mindset. If the person is negative, if the person is going through, negativity, or, is not positive, or has negative emotions, is blaming, or is, so we kind of see, our business is all positivity. We basically are a storytelling firm. We use storytelling to transform people and businesses. So we need positive people in our organization. We can't afford a negative mindset person. Now the sad part is that there are not even hardly 1% people in this world who are positive. So that automatically cuts down our consideration set is very limited. So positivity, attitude, learning, desire, hunger to learn. Secondly, we don't hire people above 30 years of age. We've had very bad experiences with people who are older. They just can't adapt and change themselves. And that's a sad thing to say, but that's a reality. We tried it many times, but people who are older, they just can't adapt and change. So our average age in our organization is, the youngest person is around 20. So we even hire people who are studying. So
oh,
we take interns, and Our internship recruitment process is also similar, very tough. And then we take interns, we groom them. So one of the person who heads our business and heads the largest team, I think she's 26 years of age.
Oh,
So basically, and interestingly, she's also from Symbiosis. Uh,
oh, that's wonderful.
so uh, so we look for these people who have a lot of hunger, desire to do something, and they work really hard. Because our business is 24/7, we work really hard. So hard work is important. Now, most of the new generation that we find is they're quite they don't want to work hard. They want it very quickly, easily. So we try to stay away from such people who have very high expectations from their jobs, because they are wanting what will I get, but not talking about what they will give. um,
True.
Kind of stay away from them. So yeah, this is how we kind of shortlist. So roughly out of 1,000 profiles, we generally find one person who's good.
Great. So there are a few more questions, but I guess you can take it later. You can resume, and then maybe
No,
in the
I'm
end.
good. I'm good. I think questions are always better. I can
Okay.
do, but you can. I mean, let's do a few more questions, and we can move.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. So, how do you deal with failures and criticism? What you had in past, or maybe like that, as a generic for those who want to be into entrepreneur and be successful.
So maybe it's time to tell my first story. Um, so once there was a frog, and this frog, was roaming around, and then he saw a tree, and he thought he'll climb the tree. So as the frog started to climb the tree, frogs don't climb trees, right? So as the frog started to climb the tree, all other frogs saw it happening. This frog is climbing the tree. They started to come to that frog, and they started to yell at that frog. And interestingly, by the way, this frog was deaf. So by birth, he was deaf. So he was climbing the tree, and all these other frogs came. Hey, you'll fall down. You'll fall down. Don't do this. It's the worst thing you can do. And the frog looked at them, saw so many frogs are gathered. He thought they were cheering him. So he started to climb the tree, and he actually climbed the tree. So the short answer to that question is be deaf to people. Anybody who is criticizing you, just be deaf to that person. And I was deaf, and you may make mistakes when you are deaf, because you may do things that people will say it's a stupid thing to do. Don't do it. But who would have thought that storytelling is a business, right? If I had thought of that and had used my logic that this will work, that will not work, I would have never been able. I would not be here. You would have not invited me, because you to achieve those things which are not been done before by other people, you have to be deaf. And maybe even dumb too. If they're saying something, don't say anything to them. Just don't, just ignore them. And that's what I do. I'm basically deaf to such people. um, and negativity is so common that you will find more and more such people, and it's not just at the junior level. I was recently talking to a client. This person was very accomplished, had a lot of expertise in building startups and all of that. And as I started talking to him, I realized that he was very negative, because the moment I started telling him about what I'm doing, he started to tell me, this is wrong, that's not the right thing you're doing, that's not right. It left me very de-energized after that.
बोला तो बोला हाँ मैं तो तैयारी करतो बोललो निघू आता
I
Mute.
I request please to be on mute.
Yeah, I think somebody's put.
Yeah, yeah.
So when
So sorry.
yeah, no worries. So when I was speaking to this person, and he was very accomplished, doing very well, but he started to use logic and say, okay, logic is basically will always at some point will tell you that things will not work. Also, logic is like you reach a road crossing, and let's say you have three options there. So actually, let's say even if you have minimum of two options, your probability of success is only 50%. So why would you use logic? And to achieve amazing things, you cannot use logic. It will only keep, get you to a place where you will start to question, and things will go wrong. Also, it takes a lot of time to do anything. A lot of time we make this mistake that things will happen fast because we want things to happen fast. Now, to give you a sense, I have written 2000 stories on LinkedIn. Now, if you go back and check, there are 70 million people on LinkedIn. Out of the 70 million, at least 10%, 7 million are who write. I have written more stories than anyone else. Now, if I would have thought that, okay, somebody would have told me, I mean, I remember somebody pinged me recently and he said, I write on LinkedIn, I'm not getting traction. I asked him, how many stories have you written? And he said 75. So I said, in 75 stories, nothing's going to happen. So you have to first write 100, then you start to see some traction. By 500, you will become a better writer. By 1000, you will become better. By 2000, you will become great. So you got to go through that grind of doing more and more, and it takes time. Now, we don't want to give that time. There's also this fear, FOMO, fear of missing out, because you know that if you waste a few years of your life in that, it's gone. And therefore, people are very scared to do anything for a longer period. In fact, I'll just go to the next slide, I think so. In fact, let's ask this question to people here in this audience, and maybe you can do it by show of hands. How many of you can do one thing surely? So one thing meaning, let's say suppose you pick up a book, then you won't leave that for at least 1 hour. Let's say you start a task, you will not leave that for 1 hour. You will not get disturbed by a mobile. One thing for an hour. Do one thing surely for an hour. How many of you can do it? Just show a raise of hands. Um, I'll get a sense of how many of you can do it.
One hand.
Two.
Okay, so
Okay.
it's coming.
Yeah, so some of you are raising hands. Very good. Now this is easy, right? And you can all put your hands down now. Now the next step is do one thing surely for a day. That means you start in the morning. If you start a book, you will put it down only when you finish it, right? If you start a hobby, if you play guitar, you'll do the whole day you will play the guitar. If you're playing, the whole day you'll play. So one thing for a day. You can show a raise of, you can show your hands, raise them, and I see only two, three. So do one thing surely for a day. Okay, there are quite a few people. Okay, you can put your hands down. The next step is do one thing surely for a week. Now, this means that for that entire week, only that thing will be done. Nothing else. You will not pick up anything else. You will just do that. If you, for example, love sleeping, then you have to continuously sleep for 1 week, right? Because I know I've been asking this question. Most of the current students, their favorite hobby is sleeping. So I only see one hand, one thing for a week. Anybody else do one thing for a week? So this is exactly where the competition ends. There is no competition after this. And now my next one will be do one thing for a month. You can put down your hands and answer this question. Do one thing for a month. That means that you're going to only do that thing. So let's say you pick up a hobby of guitar. You are going to put in 10 hours a day on guitar and you're going to do that. If you are into writing, you'll do that. If you are into building a business, then you're going to do that 10 hours a day for that 1 month. Okay, I still see two hands. I don't know if these are two hands from the last question on this one. And then next is do one thing for a year. And that's how it really goes. So, and I've coined this simple phrase called dots. Do one thing surely, which is very simple, and essentially there's no competition at the top. Very funny. A lot of you will be thinking there's a lot of competition, but actually there's no competition because nobody can write. I mean, I write stories a day now. Can someone put your stuff on mute? I think it's somebody who's uh, is there a way to? Okay, yeah, I think it's gone now. So if you look at it, I write only 2 stories a day now. I used to write in the lockdown. I increased it to 2 stories because I felt that a lot of people are reading, but people are not able to write so many stories. I mean, most content creators can't even write one per day. There is no competition. So at the top, there is very little competition, and it's lonely also at the top. There is nobody there to give you company. So that's pretty much, what I. Any other questions? I think I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, one very interesting question is there. Have you yourself ever attended this kind of webinar before you became an entrepreneur?
No, not really, actually. I think I was just busy doing stuff.
Okay, yeah. So
I
yeah, you can continue.
For an entrepreneur, an action bias is the most important thing. Um, Moving from thinking to doing, that's really important, because if you are thinking all the time, nothing's going to happen. It's important that you move from thinking to doing. Any other questions?
No, not right now.
Perfect. I'll just see.
Yeah.
So this is a story I wrote about. I mean, I'm just now going to give you an example of how storytelling can change people's lives. I was approached by this person. He had an accident while going to work. He was on his bike, and he was a sales guy. He met with an accident, got bedridden. He even went into coma, and for 6 months. And he had a just a newly born daughter. He had a wife who had some lot of health problems. He had a schizophrenic mother, and he also had a sister who had lost her job. So basically, single earner in this family. He had an accident. After that, he couldn't even walk properly after 6 months. The banks and all of that, they came, took his car and his bike away, and basically he didn't have money to eat. I met him in Bangalore. He Generally, when I go to a city, I try to meet up with people, and he approached me, and I met up with him, and I wrote a story on him. The story went viral. um, a few million people saw this story. He got 200 people who came forward. I didn't tag him here because he wanted to remain anonymous. He was doing very well in his career. I wrote the story, and 200 people came forward to help him. He landed 20 interviews, and he actually got a job opportunity in his hometown in Tamil Nadu, and that was amazing. And he's really doing very well now. And this is the power of storytelling, how it can change those 5 lives in that family. And this is how we use storytelling to impact people. So let me go ahead. So this is the framework that I follow for storytelling. This is something that I have made based on my own understanding of storytelling. You won't find this in any book. So the three basic steps: there's entice, there is engage, there is educate. So I call it the triple E framework. Um, um, Interestingly, entice is basically how do you get the person interested to read what you're writing. It could be, your dressing sense. It could be your smile. It could be the subject of an email. It could be the first line of your story. It could be something that you're offering which interests them. The second step is engage, which is basically how do you engage the people with your story. You start with the facts, and you build your story, and you share your story. And the last bit is educate, which is basically whatever you want to sell or buy or lesson learned can come in that. So these are 3 steps that I use. Now you must have noticed sales guys. For example, you get those tele sales calls, right? Where they start off by saying that I have a loan for you. So actually what they're doing is they start with educate first, and you get frustrated and you put the phone down. But when you're wanting to put the phone down, they'll start with, no, no, this is interesting, this is this. And then at the end of it, they'll say, I have an offer for you. Now they are actually following this process the other way around. So they go educate first, then engage, then entice, which is why salespeople struggle to sell things. And this is why marketing is different from sales. So that's how, this is the framework I use for my storytelling. And storytelling can be used in any way: for sales, for marketing, for solving business problems, to build your product, to differentiate yourself from the crowd. Any way, it can be used in any form, in coaching, in mentoring, all ways. And storytelling is really, the way we understand, is the intersection of HR, technology, and marketing. I won't get into why stories, because I think all of you know about how stories are impacting. I mean, basically, the brain stores everything as stories only. In fact, if you see some random incidents, you'll combine it as a story, and that's how the brain stores it. So it links everything together and stores it. And we use this way to kind of solve business problems. We work with several clients to solve business problems. Okay. Now, I think one of the things that for entrepreneurs is very important to build your personal brand. So personal brand is very important because if people don't know about you, they will not know about your business. So a simple way to build your brand is, there are three steps that I've listed there. Walking the talk. So what you do what you say, and say what you do. A lot of people are not authentic. And people make this mistake between underselling and overselling. Some people sell too much, some people sell too less. So you should know that line which you don't need to cross. And the last part is putting effort to build your brand. So I put in, roughly 15,000 hours of effort to build my brand. And that's how much time effort you need to put in. Now, if you have 10,000 hours, and there's a book called Outliers, it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert in any area. 10,000 hours, if I put 1 hour a day, it's 10,000 days. That is 30 years roughly, right? Now, if I put 10 hours a day, it's 3 years. And that's how much time you need to put in to build it, right? And once your brand gets built, people trust you. And then, you can do so many things with that. Your business will grow because of that as well. Now, perceptions do matter. What perceptions you are creating. Branding is all about perception. It's not reality. What people think about you is what they think you are. So perception is reality, and that's how you need to build brands. Good. I think I'm done. Any other questions, Ruchu? You can.
Um, Let me check. So, students, any other question?
So as a job seeker,
Yeah. Go ahead, Yogesh.
yeah. So as a job seeker, is it very nice to build your LinkedIn profile,
Yeah.
have so many followers and all?
It's
Will
very
that?
important. See, if not only as a job seeker, but in the long term, if you want opportunities to come to you, see, let me share a little bit what's happened in the market in the last 1 year, and because we hire for several companies, the number of jobs have gone down by 10 times, and the number of people applying for jobs have gone up by 10 times because so many people lost their jobs. Millions of people have lost their jobs, and people have still not found them. So you see, it's 100 times tougher than it was same time last year. So now if it is 100 times tougher, basically it means you will keep applying for jobs, but you won't get them. That's the bottom line, because you're getting thousands of profiles. Who's got the time to look through thousands of profiles? Even if I look at a profile for 1 minute, I need 1,000 minutes to, and that's a long time. No company's got time for 1,000 minutes to even say. People want, in 1 day, give me the right profiles, which means that the job market has now moved from application of jobs to people doing headhunting. So now we hire for clients. Job applications through job portals, we don't see much of, because people are applying by the thousands. So frankly, most companies don't even read your profile if you apply through a job application. So now, how do you differentiate? The only way to differentiate is through your brand. If people know there's this person, he has the skill, if they know of an opening, they will come to you. That is organic. It's like organic content marketing. It's like organically, how can you get opportunities? Jobs should come to you. You should not be running after jobs. That is the way it should work. So therefore, it is not important, it is mandatory. If you want to get good jobs, this is the only way to do it. You need to have some different skill which will differentiate you from the crowd. If you don't have that, you're one among the millions. And there's so many people sitting right now. Last year, a lot of students from the IIMs could not find jobs. I got a ping yesterday from a grad from London Business School. And she pinged me. She's passed out from 2020. It's been 1 year. She hasn't found a job. This is a London Business School grad. So should I even talk about other business schools and other? So the job market is very, very tough right now. It's oversupply and no demand or very little demand. Now the demand is there, but for very specific skills. So for example, at a fresher level, it's very tough because freshers basically don't have skills. So unless you have some very important skill which will differentiate you, which is in demand, then it will work. I hope that helps you, Yogesh.
There is one more question. What is the best way to market and to promote a service providing startup?
So we are a service providing startup, and the way we do it is through LinkedIn primarily. Now we're slowly starting to get into Insta, Quora, and Facebook. Facebook is not the right platform though. I would say Insta, Quora, Twitter, and LinkedIn are the four platforms that you should use. Now, you can create content which you can put across these platforms. So you can start to repurpose the same content and build your brand. And organic content is the right way. Paid marketing will not work in the long term. Fortunately, we don't have a sales team. So you don't require a sales team actually. Any other questions?
Uh, well, apart from questions, there are a lot of this appreciation messages as well to me. They would like to listen you more and more, maybe another session, and they don't want to miss. But yeah, one question has popped up. Tu- can YouTube channel be used for marketing?
Yes, it depends on your service. Um, if you're a finance company, for example, a lot of people are doing it where you kind of create content. I did leave out YouTube. Um, See, paid marketing on YouTube doesn't work much. But if you can create organic content marketing on YouTube, definitely. I also didn't include it because it requires more time, more effort, and also it requires more money because you have to edit stuff and all of that. Um, for example, I don't. I mean, I have been only using, and we have been only using only text content. Now we move towards images, so you'll be surprised, right? I've never posted any image on my LinkedIn post. I have never posted any video on my LinkedIn posts. I have also not tagged anybody. So nobody has been tagged. So it's completely, when I started, I had, I think, 4,000 followers because I had those connections, and now just crossed 550,000 just recently. So it's completely driven by good quality content, content that people like to read and they get something out of it. I remember once I was sick and I got delayed by half an hour to post my content, and I got hundreds of messages saying that we are waiting. when is the post coming? So yeah, so you need to, as an entrepreneur, you need to show up every single day, whether you are sick or something's not happening right in your personal life. It's a 24/7 job. It's a tough job to do. So you need to show up every single day, irrespective of what's happening in your life. Any other questions, Ruchu?
Any other question?
Yeah, and if you want, you can unmute and ask also. I mean, you can
Yeah.
ask about career, you can ask about skills, anything that.
Okay. But certainly, I think me, myself, and all of us have understood one common message definitely from your journey. That is that for an entrepreneur, I guess they have to see failure as a journey or maybe as a beginning, and not to treat it as a full stop or maybe a stop for anything. Because if you see this as a stop, I guess you really cannot be. Looking at your success today, maybe everybody must be thinking it could have come very easily to you, or maybe anything else, being blessed or something. But I'm sure listening to you, so many hurdles, and also sometimes you were doing this and sometimes that, but still you were focused that no, I have to do this and I don't want to go back to my job. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is really a passion driven kind of a thing and to learn about.
yeah. And I think thanks for bringing that up, Ruchu. I think a very important point is personal pivots. Like in business, you have to pivot your business model. You try one, it's not working, you move to the other. You try, you'll be surprised every quarter we do something new. We try it out and we tried several things and we failed in several things. But we just keep trying. We just keep doing different. So you have to be like that ant. If you notice an ant, it doesn't matter what you're going to do, the ant will go about doing its work.
Yeah, true.
You have to be like that ant who just goes about doing its stuff. The ant is not bothered about the outcome, it's about the process. And I think we get very greedy and fearful. So you just have to keep doing stuff. You have to also personally pivot, meaning you have to learn new skills every single day. Now, if you asked me 3 years, 3.5 years back, what is storytelling, I had no clue. And now I'm considered somebody who understands storytelling really well. But really, anything can be learned. Now, this whole thing about leadership cannot be learned, it's born. I think these are all, I mean, I don't have anybody in my family who has done business. So no, nothing is impossible, and everything can be learned. I think you have to stop looking at goals as goalposts and milestones. It has to naturally happen because it will take a few years to build a business. It's never going to be happening in one day. Now, just imagine if after, I'll tell you, after almost 3 months of writing, I think 5, 6 months of writing, I was hitting, in fact, after the first year of writing, I was hitting 1 million, 5 million views a month. If I had stopped then, nothing would have happened. I would have just become history. So you have to continue doing that thing. And you have to just keep doing it every day, day in, day, forever. I'd met this businessman, and when I was failing and I'd done so many startups, so many businesses that failed, I met this gentleman who had been doing a business for the last 40 years. And he told me something so interesting that changed my perspective about business. He said, the success of, I mean, your success in business lies in staying in business. So you have to remain in business to become successful. And when you remain in business, you will face those challenges. And there were several times when I thought that, okay, maybe, so much effort I'm putting in, and we put our entire lives at stake, because when you do entrepreneurship, it's like 7 days a week. I mean, I can't differentiate between a Sunday and a Monday. We are working every day, and even today, that kind of hard work is required. So you drop the ball once, people are just waiting that this person fails. That is how the world is, because they feel that, okay, how can somebody become successful? So there must be something wrong. So really, it is, you have to work harder than most people, and then you have to really work very smart in terms of learning and growing every single day. If you are not learning, then you will become extinct. And most people, what they do, they join these jobs and they keep doing the same stuff for several years. You have to learn every single day. There's no other way out.
Very true. And as per your screen also rightly says, start, stop, continue. So
Yeah.
never just keep
Mhm.
on rediscovering yourself. So I would really wish to thank you that what a interesting, as per you always do, because you are a great storyteller. So very lightly you have explained certain so focused aspects of how to be a successful entrepreneur. And there were so many wonderful takeaways, especially from your session, what I have jotted down, like never give up, giving is powerful, and do what's your passion drives you, and follow the market, walking the talk, and also to build your brand. There were so many of them, but I could just note a few which was coming for the keynotes for our students and also for all of us. Because as I rightly mentioned, this being a skills university, I guess all the students are really, they really want to be an entrepreneur, and not only that, even a successful one.
Yeah, and I think beauty and wellness is a great area. If you really
Yeah.
ask me, we are also in the area of wellness only in some ways. So beauty
Okay.
and wellness is a great area to get in. Start your own work and give it a few years. 2 to 3 years is what will take you to build your business. And
Great.
if you're okay, can I just end with a story so that you know?
Yes, yes, we can. So I just want to take a one pic. If you could stop sharing your screen, so
Yeah,
I would be just taking that.
this is sorry. Just
So I request those who can really on their cameras. It's a request. If you could do that, I would like to take 2, 3 pics for the session.
nice to see all the faces.
Yeah.
You all can smile also.
uh, this will just take 1, 2 minutes. So please be patient. 1 second.
Yeah, more people. I think there's several more people can turn their cameras on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I just request those who can do, if you could just put your cameras on.
Okay, 12 more people need to turn the cameras on. Okay, 11, 10, okay, 9, 8, 7. I'm getting all of you interested. 6, 5, 4. Last few people who will come now in the frame. 3,
Yeah, I will
2.
take it from different angles because we had good participation today.
Yeah,
So
last 1 or 2 people are left. Anybody turns on, you will come in the frame.
yeah. Okay, so smile please. 1 second.
Okay, good. One more person remaining.
Yeah.
Okay, we have full house now.
Oh, that's great. It will, yeah.
You will all smile now.
Yes. So once again, everybody smile.
Wonderful. So I'll share, if you're okay, Ruchu, can I share my last story before we end?
Yes, sure, sure. That's yes, why not? Yes, I have taken enough of them. I think that will be okay for me. Yeah.
So many years back, there was in a village, there was a wise old man, and he had an answer to all the questions. So anybody would go to him for with a question, he would answer it. And, and he always got the answers right. So after, a few months and a few years, his popularity started to grow. People from neighboring villages would come and hundreds of people would come to meet him to ask their questions. Now, as he became more and more popular, obviously, as you become popular, some people get jealous, right? So one young boy, he got very jealous, and he thought of teaching this wise man a lesson. So he caught a sparrow in his hands, and he took the sparrow and hid it behind his back and went to meet the wise man. So the wise man was the old man, he was giving a talk to all the people. All his followers were there, and he was sharing with them, saying something about different things, and people were asking him questions. So this guy entered the room and he said, "Oh, wise old man, I have a question for you." So he looked at him, and the moment somebody questions authority, there is pinned up silence. He looked at him and smiled, and he said, "Sure, go ahead, ask your question." So this young boy said, "Tell me, wise man, you have an answer to every question, but I have a very tough question for you. What do I have in my hands behind my back?" So obviously he had hidden a sparrow in his hands, kept it behind his back. And so the wise man looked at him, smiled, closed his eyes. There was pin drop silence in the room. And in the silence, he could hear the squeak of the sparrow and the ruffle of the feathers. So he said, my boy, you have a beautiful young sparrow in your hands. So the boy got really, frustrated and angry also in some ways, because he thought, oh my God, how has he managed to find this out? But he was a smart guy, just like all of you. He'd come with plan B. And he said, okay, you got the first question right, but the second one is very tough. You can never get it right. Tell me, is the sparrow dead or alive? So he thought of it. If he said that the sparrow was dead, he will fly the sparrow in the air and prove him wrong. If he said it's alive, he will squeeze the sparrow and kill it. So the wise man thought for a minute, smiled at him, and he said, my son, it's in your hands. And so is your life. So just make the best of it. Thank you so much and wish you all the best.
Thank you. That was such a wonderful and powerful note, and that too again with a wonderful story. So really, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much. I would just request our staff from School of Beauty and Wellness, especially our director, Dr. Archana. Ma'am, if you could just unmute and as well as you can on your video and just say a few words. I think 1 second. Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Sandeep. It was a very, very enlightening talk by you and presentation for our students who will definitely take your words forward to become an entrepreneur. Few things Ruchu has already quoted, but the thing which was very, very appealing to me was positivity, attitude, and hunger, which you said. These 3 points, if you keep in mind for anything, whatever you do in the life, if you have positivity towards it, if you have special attitude towards it, and definitely hunger to be successful, you will be successful throughout your life. This message, I'm sure our students have taken, but even I would take it to carry my life forward. And thank you very much for your presentation. And I'm thankful to Ruchu as well to find you and make you available for our students. So thank you so much.
My pleasure, and thank you so much, Ruchu, for having me here. And,
No, thank you. Thank you so much to you. Yeah, thank you for being here and just a wonderful delivery. So really
very,
thankful.
very informative session, sir. Really appreciable.
I think after a very long time, I have heard a powerful message in a very light note,
Yeah, that's true.
and something which I can relate to, I'm sure everybody must have, taken some message and some rejuvenation out of you that, success is really, it's not that easy. The journey is very, very difficult, and the one who is ready for this and stays will be the one who will be successful.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Somebody like you, has to be. Yeah.
Thank you, Ruchu. Take care.
So thank you. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Take care. I'll catch you. Bye-bye. Bye. So thank you so much to all the students, the staff from different schools at our Symbiosis, as well as my own colleagues, and especially to our director and our wonderful students, maybe from Beauty Wellness, from BBA, as well as from Data Science. Thank you so much, one and all. So bye-bye. Now you can resume your classes. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. You too. Bye-bye. Take care. Bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Bye-bye.
Bye.